Hi, welcome back. Over the next 2 lessons, we're going to be focusing on the major muscles of the anterior of the leg, on the front of the leg. Watch the video often and listen to the audio files. Listen to the audio files and practice repeating the names after I say them in the audio file so that you can build your confidence. And of course, as always, take the time to practice talking to your clients about the muscles while you're working on them. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.
Anterior lower limb muscles, Part 1. The quadriceps are made up of 4 muscles: rectus femoris, the vastus intermedius, the vastus lateralis, and the vastus medialis. The origin of the rectus femoris is the anterior inferior iliac spine. The origin of the vastus group muscles is the upper half of the femur. The insertion of the quadricep muscles is the tibia tuberosity. The action of the rectus femoris is to extend the knee and flex the hip. The action of the vastus group muscles is to extend the knee. Rectus femoris, vastus intermedius, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis make up the quadricep muscles. Satorius. The origin of the Satorius is the anterior superior iliac spine. The insertion of the Satorius is proximal anterior-medial tibia. The action of the Satorius is to flex the hip, lateral rotation of the hip, and flex the knee. Satorius. Tensor Fascia Latae, TFL. The origin of the tensor fascia latae is the anterior superior iliac spine and the anterior iliac crest. The insertion of the tensor fascia latae is the iliotibial band. The action of the tensor fascia latae is flex the hip, abduct the thigh, and stabilize the knee and hip. Tensor fascia latae. Adductors. The adductor magnus, adductor longus, and adductor brevis. The origin of the adductors is the ischial tuberosity and anterior pubic bone. The insertion of the adductors is the medial aspect of the femur. The action of the adductors is to adduct the thigh. Adductor magnus, adductor longus, adductor brevis. Adductors. Anterior lower limb muscles, Part 2. Gracilis. The origin of the gracilis is the inferior pubis. The insertion of the gracilis is the medial condyle of the tibia. The action of the gracilis is to adduct the hip and flex the knee. Gracilis. Tibialis Anterior. The origin of the tibialis anterior is anterior proximal half of the tibia. The insertion of the tibialis anterior is the medial cuneiform and inferior of the first metatarsal bone. The action of the tibialis anterior is to dorsiflex the ankle and invert the foot. Tibialis anterior. The extensor digitorum longus, the origin of the extensor digitorum longus is top of tibia and fibula. The insertion of the extensor digitorum longus is the dorsal surface of toes 2 to 5. The action of the extensor digitorum longus is to extend the toes, dorsiflex the ankles, and evert the foot. Extensor hallucis longus. The origin of the extensor hallucis longus is the middle half of the fibula. The insertion of the extensor hallucis longus is distal phalanx of the big toe. The action of the extensor hallucis longus is to extend the big toe, dorsiflex the ankle, and invert the foot. Extensor hallucis longus. Flexor digitorum longus. The origin of the flexor digitorum longus is the posterior tibia. The insertion of the flexor digitorum longus is the plantar surface of toes 2 to 5. The action of flexor digitorum longus is to flex the toes, plantar flex the foot, and invert the foot. Flexor digitorum longus. Flexor hallucis longus. The origin of the flexor hallucis longus is the posterior fibula. The insertion of the flexor hallucis longus is the plantar surface of the big toe. The action of the flexor hallucis longus is to flex the big toe, plantar flex the foot, and invert the foot. Flexor hallucis longus. Fibularis longus and Fibularis brevis. The origin of the Fibularis longus is proximal lateral half of the fibula. The insertion of the Fibularis longus is the plantar base of the first metatarsal. The origin of the Fibularis brevis is distal lateral half of the fibula. The insertion of the Fibularis brevis is the plantar base of the fifth metatarsal. The action of these two muscles is to evert the foot and plantar flex the ankle. Fibularis longus and Fibularis brevis.